Yes.
Hello, everybody. Good to have you with me. I am Benjamin De Witte. Welcome to the How To podcast. This is one in a series of podcasts created to help people with some of those questions which come up in day-to-day life. When these questions come up, very often we ask our friends or perhaps our family or even colleagues. We know that usually these people can share their personal experience, but very often they're not really experts in the field that we need help with. That's where this podcast comes in, the How To podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about how to sell your house, tips to sell your house from a property professional. So rather than just getting any old Tom, Dick, and Harry for advice as to how to sell your house, we're actually going to be asking a professional. You know, they say selling your house can be one of the most traumatic and disruptive experiences. I know, I've been through it. Fortunately, only once, but it's not something I look particularly forward to. But to help us with this topic this afternoon, I've brought on board a friend of mine, Annie Kalefya. Annie and I met back in 2019 at a Toastmasters meeting. We're both members of Benoni Toastmasters. I was just joining and Annie was already a member there. And we got to know each other a little better. I soon learned that Annie was in the property business. Not only is she in the property business, in fact, Annie is the principal property practitioner at Treetops Estate. So she's also an entrepreneur. Annie has been working in the real estate industry for more than 17 years, and her passion is to help clients find their dream homes. Annie's areas of expertise are selling property, finding property for her buyers, also conducting evaluations, and letting properties. She covers most of the East Rand in Gauteng, South Africa, but Annie doesn't really restrict herself in terms of areas. Of course, anyone can get hold of Annie in case you're looking to buy or sell your house. But when Annie's not doing that, she is also the president of our Benoni Toastmasters Club at the moment. She enjoys dancing, especially to some golden oldies, I'm told. We'll have to see your dance moves at our next meeting, Annie. And when she's not busy with Toastmasters or selling property, she's just a few park runs short of hitting that 100 park run milestone. Gee whiz, Annie, you're far too energetic for me. Annie, let me start by welcoming you and thanking you very much for your time this afternoon. We certainly do appreciate it, and it's certainly my pleasure to have you on the first episode of the How To podcast.
Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you for having me this afternoon.
Great. Annie, especially considering that we're recording this podcast in April 2023, economic situation is quite tough for many people. Interest rates have been going up quite a bit over the last number of months, especially since those lows of COVID. Tell me, how do we know when it's a seller's market? Is it ever a seller's market?
Thank you very much, Ben, for that question. It used to be at times before the 2009 recession, actually, if I recall very well, because that time is the seller's market. The seller's market is when the housing demand is high, where there are a lot of buyers wanting to buy with only a few properties. So that's where the seller's market comes in. But now, after the recession, it hasn't been, it has never been a seller's market. It has always been a buyer's market. Till up to today, we're still in the buyer's market.
I see. Okay, so low supply and high demand means it's a seller's market, but wow, it's really, excuse me, it's really been a buyer's market for a number of years. Wow. I understand. So probably as a seller, you have to watch out for some
Yes,
of
because
those
the
pitfalls.
sellers, yes, the sellers are not getting their prices. A seller can put a price for their house, but you find that they won't get their price. The buyers come in with their own offers. So it will be up to the seller to accept that offer or not accept. If they are patient enough to wait until they get the price, well, the property will stay for long on the market until they get their price. But now, if they want to get rid of the property like as soon as possible, maybe they are migrating, or maybe there's something which is pressurizing them to sell, then definitely they'll have to accept at least whatever offer they will get, which they feel they can get it. It's better than just you let the property stay for long on the market. Because
see.
on that one, maybe they are losing, especially where people are facing financial constraints. And then the longer the property stays on the market, the longer the seller will be taking out money on a lot of expenses which are incurred running a property.
That's true. Yeah, owning property can be an expensive business. So basically, if I understand you correctly, it's a buyer's market, and sellers pretty much have to take the price being offered by those buyers. Okay. Annie, when we're selling our house, considering that you're in the estate agent business, I guess you would be recommending that we make use of an estate agent. Why would you say that?
Yes, why I would say the people make use of the estate agent, it's because there's a lot of things happening in this world around, a lot of scamming going on, people losing monies because they don't go through the proper channels. So this is why I say it's better for somebody to use an estate agent, because one, we are guided by certain rules. We fall under the then Estate Agents Affairs Board, but now it has changed its name. We changed the act. The act changed from the Estate Agents Affairs Board. We are now under the Property Practitioners Act that was introduced in February of 2021. So we are guided as estate agents. So this is why I'm saying, it's better for a seller to use the services of the estate agent, because they will advise you as a seller on the transaction from the time of the application of the bond with the buyer, up to the whole process, the whole transaction, up to registration. So you'll be guided by the estate agent, unlike where you sell it yourself, because there are certain requirements as a seller which you are supposed to adhere to according to the law. I'll just give you an example of the new law which came in with effect from the 1st of February, which is the disclosure form, where the seller has to disclose the defects of the house. And now it's mandatory for every seller to disclose whether it's latent defects or patent defects. They are supposed to be disclosed. Now, if somebody is selling privately, they won't know these details, that these are the things they are supposed to go through. Why they brought in this disclosure form is because buyers were getting ripped off. They were being sold properties which are not in good standard. By the time they are registered into their names, then they have to incur a lot of monies and pennies to renovate their houses. So this is why this was brought in now. It's no more footstools as it used to be, or it can be footstools, but now it has to be shown that this house has got this and this defect. By the time the purchaser buys that property, they know the defects. Then they will know if they want to go ahead with the transaction or not. So this is why it's very, very important to go through an estate agent, because there are a lot of things which are considered in the purchasing process.
That's a great point. I guess, like people like myself only doing these transactions every now and then, every 10 years or more, many things have changed probably since the last time I sold my house. And somebody like yourself who is close to the industry is much better versed to be able to advise on the various pieces of legislation as well as the processes. I think that makes a lot of sense. So they can really add a lot of value to the process. How would you go about choosing an estate agent?
Well, there's no imposition as such to say that you should use a particular estate agent. It's up to you as a consumer. One, we've got area agents in most of the areas. So it will be up to you to use the services of that area agent. And the advantage of using an area agent is because they know the area better. They will advise you, say, on schools, which schools are in the area, if there are any hospitals in the area. And then, we have all these the necessary amenities which we need. So they will be able to advise you. Maybe you can be buying a property, you're coming from another province. You don't know the area very well. So it's better to use the services of the area agent who will be able to advise you on how safe that the neighborhood is in that area. So this is why it's important to use, you don't have to be imposed. And then it can be also through referrals. Maybe there can be a friend or a colleague who use the services of that particular estate agent. Oh, sorry, it's no longer an estate agent. We're no longer called estate agents. Ever since from the 1st of February 2021, we are now property practitioners. So, yes. So in that way, there could be somebody, one of your colleagues or your family members who use the services of that particular property practitioner, and then they will recommend to you to use the services, especially if they were happy with the services rendered from that particular property practitioner.
Right. Okay, so it's not an estate agent anymore. It's a property practitioner. Okay. We're learning things along the way here. That's great. Awesome. So they certainly would have some local knowledge and be able to give the prospective buyer some advice in terms of schools, depending on the ages of the children, and other amenities like hospitals and churches, I guess, as well. So you would certainly get some local advice, I would think. Super. I've heard of the sole mandate. I don't think I made use of that when I sold my property, but maybe you can tell us, what is a sole mandate and is it a good idea?
It is a good idea on the part of me as a property practitioner. And the sole mandate is an exclusive mandate. It's like you giving powers to that particular property practitioner to sell the property on your behalf, rather than leaving your property on an open mandate. And it is important to have a sole mandate, because with a sole mandate, that property practitioner who's been given those powers to sell that property will go out of their way to market the property until they sell. And now, because there is no competition from the other agents, that particular property practitioner will ensure that the seller get their maximum price. I mean, the asking price. Because if there are a lot of other agents involved, then maybe they might try to bring the price down just to let the property go, or just for them to make a commission out of that sale, fearing that maybe the other agent will come in and sell the property. So in that way, the seller might lose out on the money, because now you find that the property won't fetch for that price which he asked for. But if there's a sole mandate, the property practitioner will go out of their way to ensure that that property is sold for that particular price, because now they'll have even the power to even negotiate with the buyers to say that, no, this is the asking price for the seller, and as long as they're interested in that house, definitely they are going to buy it through that agent, through the sole mandate.
Okay, thanks for
And the other
explaining that.
thing, the other advantage also of using a sole mandate, because you're not dealing with a lot of agents. So there won't be so much traffic in your house. When people come in to view, this one goes out, another one comes in, and then so it's better if it's a sole mandate. At least even you as a seller, you just arrange the viewing times with that particular agent. Then there won't be that traffic of in and out. Every now and then there's always somebody coming in to view. So yeah, that's the advantage of using having a sole mandate
Okay, so
with a particular.
it means our
Yes.
property could be marketed more thoroughly by that agent who has the sole mandate, and probably dealing with just one agent as opposed to 5 or 10, which can be a little bit tricky. Certainly sounds like an advantage.
Yeah, and the other thing is, they will put that particular property practitioner will put in all their effort, because now they know they are the ones who are selling that property. They will make sure advertising, marketing, it's all money. So
Yes.
they have to pump in money to market that particular property, maybe even have the show houses for that particular. But now, if it's an open mandate, people don't spend money on advertising or marketing, because you know very well that maybe you won't even sell that property. So you won't take that risk of pumping in money for the marketing and advertising.
Makes sense. Okay, understood. Typically, how long does the sole mandate last? Is it 1 month or 3 months, or how long would it normally last?
That can be arranged with the seller. I know normally you can sign for it. Okay, it depends with the seller, how comfortable he or she is to sign a 3 months sole mandate or a 4 months sole mandate. But some will just say, I'll just give you 1 month. So you
Okay,
have to sell that particular property in that 1 month.
right. Okay, great. Annie, how do we decide what our property should sell for? I mean, obviously, I'd like to get as much as possible, but then, I guess there's also a market price. How do we decide what's fair to be able to sell my property for?
How you come up with the market price for a property as a seller is, first one, you can get evaluations maybe from 3 different agencies. Then they will give you their evaluation. From there, you sit down and check, okay, these are the amounts I was given. Then you go with whichever amount. But now sometimes you find that with agents, just for them to have a mandate, maybe they will give you a much higher price, such that you feel like, oh, I'll go with this agent because now this one has given me a higher amount. And yet maybe it's not even your house is not even priced in that price range. But even you as a consumer, we've got a platform known as called the Lightstone. You can Google Lightstone report, where you can get your reports for your properties in whatever area, because Lightstone get their details from the deeds office. So they've got the property analysis reports from all the areas throughout South Africa. It will show on their reports like how much was sold, which property was sold for how much in any particular area, as long as you just put in the details of the stand number of the house and the area where it is, it will give you all the details. So even you as a consumer, you can also get the property report from Lightstone. At least it will give you the picture to say that, okay, this is what is selling in my area.
Excellent.
And then the other thing is, definitely you can't want to overprice your property. Sometimes you find that people, they overcapitalize in their properties, thinking, I'll just give you an example. Say in the township, you've got this beautiful double-story house. It's got all the nice finishes, and you want to sell that property for 2 million. Definitely it won't sell, because now you overcapitalized in the wrong area. So definitely you won't get your price, because using the comparable analysis, it will show that, okay, this is the township and the properties in this township are going for so much. But just because you pumped in so much money to make your house so posh, like a house in Santon or whatever, but that is only for your own comfort. But
Sure.
when it comes to selling, then it will be a problem. Then you get stuck with your house. Otherwise, you have to sell it at a market-related price according
Okay.
to the area.
Lightstone, that's a great resource. I think we'll put some reference to that in the show notes so that our listeners can access that and see if their properties are more or less in line with what is going on in their suburb. That's a great tip there. Thank you, Annie. When you sell your house, as a seller, what sort of costs would you let your clients know about? I mean, as the seller, I assume the costs for the property practitioner in terms of commission, would that be for the seller's account? Are there any other costs also that I might face as a seller?
Yes, the commission, the property practitioner's commission comes from the seller's amount. So whenever you are selling your property, this is why it is important to sit down with the seller to agree. The seller will tell you, I'm looking at so much in my pocket. Then maybe that property practitioner will just put their markup on top of that. Or maybe the seller will tell you, no, I'm selling for this price, including the commission. So yes, Ben, the commission comes from the seller's money. The other cost which is incurred by the seller is for the electrical compliance certificate, because that one is a must. It never used to be compulsory for any seller to issue a compliance certificate, but now this was passed, I think, about 6-7 years ago, when it became compulsory now for any seller selling their properties to get the compliance certificate. So that will be the cost of the seller. They have to call in an electrician to come and check the plugs, the globes, if everything is working, is in order. And if the electrician finds that anything faulty in the wiring of the house, then they have to repair it before issuing an electrical compliance certificate. So that would be at the cost of the seller.
Okay. So yes, if we have some backyard electricians doing some work at home, it could cost us in the long run, right?
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah, that
Yes,
can
and
be.
the compliance certificate is only valid for 2 years. So if you decide to sell your house after 2 years, then you have to get a new compliance certificate. And then if there's been any additions also from the time, say even if it's within the 2 years, as long as you added a room on your property, then that room will need electrical to be done. So because of that that extension, then definitely you need to get an electrical compliance certificate.
Okay, great advice. I know that I often see on a Sunday afternoon there's those show house signs and the flags outside the house. I don't think I did that when I sold my house, but I could imagine that that might be an effective way to expose the property to some potential buyers. Do you have any show day tips for all of those sellers out there?
Yes, on the show houses, you need to arrange with the sellers if they are comfortable to have a show house. One, it's a way of marketing your property, because you can't just rely on maybe one platform where you are advertising the property 24, a private property. So you need to broaden your marketing. This is why we always have show houses, so that you broaden your market to the potential buyers who would like to buy in that particular area. And then also it's also an advantage, like on our part as property practitioners, whenever we have show houses, this is the time when we even generate our leads. Because those people who come and view, maybe you find that they won't like that property in particular, but they are looking to buy in that area. then as long as you as a property practitioner, you get your details, which we always do, whoever comes to see their house, then you get their details, then you add them on your database. In case they don't like that house, it's maybe not according to their specification. So it will give you now time to look out for another property to what they are looking for. So this is why I said it's also one way of generating leads, because from there, then you know, okay, there's this client who came for the show house and they are looking at this particular type of property. So you go out to look for that property which fits in their description, which these people want.
Super. And I've heard the stories of having fresh coffee brewing and having biscuits freshly baked and things like that. Is that just a myth, or do you think it helps?
No, it does help.
It
does
does.
help.
Okay.
You know, where there's food, food is always there. You know how it is with food. It will always attract people.
Right.
So as long as you're offering that free coffee, definitely people will come along to come and see what you are marketing or what you are selling.
Oh, that's interesting. Any type of food. Okay, excellent.
Yes.
Annie, I know that buying or selling a house can be quite a long and drawn out process. Typically, how long can we expect?
Normally, Ben, if it's a straightforward deal, it will take 6 to 8 weeks. Then the house is registered into the new owner's name. But now there are some hurdles on the way. So this is just an estimated time of saying it's 6 to 8 weeks. You find that some properties, yes, it can take 6 to 8 weeks for everything to go through, but there are other properties which take a longer time than that, because you find that on the way during the transaction, there are a lot of things which happen, which delay the whole process. One, maybe the buyer paid their transfer fees or transfer costs late. So that would delay the process. And then there are times when maybe the lawyers made a mistake, just a slight mistake on their documents when going to lodge at the deeds office. Because of that, then it will be rejected from the deeds office until it's rectified again by the lawyers. Then it has to be relodged again. It has to pass through the same processes of so many examiners at the deeds office. So yeah, there are so many things which make the transaction to take a bit longer than the estimated 6 to 8 weeks.
Right. Yes, I guess the lesson is we've got to cross our T's and dot our I's and make sure that everything is done properly and payments are made on time. I know that can be a little bit of a logistical nightmare, but fortunately, if we have a property practitioner on our side taking us through that process and walking us as lay people, if I can put it that way, I think that certainly would help us to expedite the process. Annie, I think that's been a great chat, and you've certainly given us some great insights into the property business and how having a property practitioner on our side could help us to sell our houses, not just sell them, but do it in a reasonable time and to try and maximize the price. So I think that you've delivered a great deal of value to our listeners. Thank you very much, Annie. Just one last question. If any of our listeners wanted to reach you or contact you, how would they be able to find out where you are?
I'm based in Benoni, in the Western Extension, just opposite the Eco Motel. That's where my office is. Then I also advertise on private property. You get my details on private property. I am also on Facebook and LinkedIn, but I'm not on Instagram. I wish I can start to be on Instagram so that at least I can expose myself on all these the social media platforms. But currently, I'm using Facebook and LinkedIn.
Excellent.
And private property.
All right, super. We'll certainly get those handles from you and put them in the show notes so that our listeners can reach out to you in case they are looking to either buy or sell or even let a property. Thanks again, Annie. We do appreciate your time. And to all the listeners, thank you for joining us in this episode of the How To podcast. It's certainly very much appreciated, and looking forward to you joining us on an upcoming episode. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you for having me.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you. Okay.